again. You know, it's us again. I don't know why, but we will get this presentation. I hope you survived the great rain yesterday. We got pretty wet, but okay. So today, and I hope the internet will work through this morning course. It would be useful to have the internet, but if you don't have it, we just have to proceed. This lecture is a little different from the other lectures because we are not dealing with a specific topic, we are more dealing with a new instrument for analysis. And as you can see, it's called the Sustainable Governance Indicators. Indicators. It's not an index, they are indicators. And out of these indicators, there are 3 rankings. And the rankings, we will introduce the systematic, the underlying logic of this instrument for measurement. The good thing for you is everything is open and can be downloaded for free. So that's the idea. So if you're working on a certain country, you get easily some information. And you can see that the main term is governance. But I mean, sometimes I really ask myself, so is there anything which is not governance? It seems that governance has become a kind of buzzword at the moment. It's replacing things like development, for example, or stability or whatever. So everybody's talking now about governance. And I mean, the problem with this term is it is very vague. There's not a clear definition which is agreed by all. And this explains why this term is so popular, I would say. So everybody uses governance, but people talking about very different things. Okay, the whole issue of governance started quite early. It was a World Bank team, a term, which was used to describe the situation in many developing countries. The idea was, that after the 1970s and 80s, where people thought underdevelopment is a logical consequence of the capitalist world system, from the left wing here, they thought, okay, there must be some factors which could explain success or failure. And the World Bank defined governance as a key term. And they defined it as the manner in which power is exercised is the management of a country's economic and social resources for development. In German we would say Regierungsführung, but this is a very bad translation. So what you can see here is more technocratic idea. It's management of economic and social resources, not political. The World Bank, according to its statutes, is not allowed to have open political statements. Well, they have some, of course, implicitly, but usually they avoid political, not economic policy, but clearly political statements. The EU is much clearer. Governance is generally used as a basic measure of quality and performance of any political and administrative system. And here we go, political. So there are some political factors as well. And if you look up all the definitions in the following years, it was EU Commission 2001, I guess. No, yeah, 2001. Then they easily define terms like rule of law, transparency. Even sometimes they take democracy, respect for human rights, openness, and all these things. So this is more a technocratic approach, and this is more, I would say, a more democratic approach. So you have very different understanding of governance. For our purpose, and I would say for the country study, and for the things you should present, it's useful to have another understanding. Because governance is the way to steer an economy or development. And you steer, that means you direct, actually. So steering through markets, hierarchies, and networks, these are 3 ideal types. In reality, there's always a mix, but I think it's quite clear, through markets, hierarchies, and networks. And what's interesting, especially for this topic, is steering through networks. And as you can see, I put in a famous belief in Germany, dealing with regulatory structures combining public and private hierarchical and network forms of action coordination. So it is more or less an interplay between different actors from very different angles. Because business wants to make a profit, it's very simple. NGOs have a very different agenda, let's say, to make the world better, idealist, and of course the administration plus the administration. Well, of course, this is naive. I would say it's really interesting because if we look up, for example, network structures in markets, I would say this is probably pretty interesting. And I remember the presentation of our Romanian colleagues about this gold mine. Actually, I've never seen this gold mine, but the idea would be you could solve this problem if there's a coordinated effort by administration, politics, NGOs, and business. But in the Romanian case, it turned out it's impossible because actors, stakeholders were ready to cooperate, instrumentalize everything, and so on and so on. But I would say we could deal with these policy networks, problem-solving networks, with these two different kinds. And the interesting thing with networks is that they cooperate. Cooperation is based on trust. So you know the people. You can trust them. You have dealt with them before, for example. And but some modern societies, I would say, have a kind of collective self-steering because it's saying to different actors. So this is the understanding of governance on I would say, on a more regional basis, on a more coordinated. And we would like to present the following. Daniel will focus more on the results of these indicators and give you some explanations. So we have chosen some country examples. We took findings for Poland, for Romania, for Croatia, and for Germany. You will easily see Germany, although they had some successes, we also have a lot of deficits. We'll come into this a little later. So first of all, we go a little bit to funding and division of these sustainable government indicators. We say something to the instrument, and then findings. I think it's a very nice title you've chosen. And the critical reflection, okay, are we going to do this one? Because this is a bunch of social sciences sitting here, economists, and I think you are able to criticize this government indicator by yourself. And then after a while we'll show you the slide and you can discuss it. Those of us are not working for these indicators. We are working on different subjects, but not on these indicators. For me, I'm interested in this. I'm working in a similar project called Bertelsmann Transformation for the next 40 years as a regional coordinator, but not this one. Okay, it's funded by the Bertelsmann Foundation. It's a private business foundation. I would say it's quite a rich foundation. Behind the Bertelsmann Foundation, which is a media group actually, they own TV stations, newspapers, and publishing houses, as famous as Random House, for example. So they're quite a big player, this Bertelsmann. It's a global business with 111,000 employees. And I think they work in 80 countries. Well, they started as early as in 1835, printing books. And they become one of the global players. It is a family business still. 20% are owned by the family. They are not registered at the stock exchange. It is very unusual for a corporation of this size. And every year, I think they make, we call it a turnover of 7 billion euros. The net profit was last year 1 billion. So they are really big, and they have a foundation to do good things, so to say, for tax reduction as well. And they have founded a kind of think tank. It's a very influential one because they give advice, and they do studies and research for the government. Well, they try to influence government. And of course, they have their own agenda. And this is a corporation, so they have a more liberal agenda, which is quite clear. They closely cooperate with scientists. They hire them and they pay for everything. And they do some charity as well. They're really concerned about it. So there are many, many projects. If you visit the homepage, the good thing is you can download so many things for free. Well, we are talking about these sustainable government indicators. I brought some copies with me, so if you want to take one there for free, of course. Yeah, you can. Yeah, but you know, then and what they, I mean, this is an expert-based study. Yeah. There are 100 experts, and these 100 experts they deal with countries, so they are experts for the country. They're usually political scientists, economists, and they are based on quantitative and qualitative data. And this is a big difference when you compare it with the World Bank. So the World Bank has a government index, they call it a government index, but this is only based on quantitative data. But this one is based on qualitative data. That means you have reports. And the good thing is you can download them. They actually have three rankings, and we will explain later. And they have country reports. The German report has 150 pages, no, 50? 52. Around 52, okay. And now it's the third round, so it was founded a couple of years ago. And it's the target groups, I mean, everyone can read this stuff, but it's more for political decision makers, so citizens, managers, civil society actors, professionals, scholars, and so on and so on. So this is a project just for a large group. Yeah, how it is done. And this is the interesting thing. This is very similar to the project I'm working with. First of all, they have different rounds. And they start with an expert. And the expert is usually someone who knows the country quite well, living in the country. The expert is responding to a questionnaire. Give an example. Oh, yeah. That's a questionnaire. And what you can see here, for example, we have chosen the indicator strategic planning. So the question is how much influence do strategic planning units and bodies have on government decision making. So this is the question, and then they list, as you can see here, kind of points. The best would be 10, and the worst ranking would be 1. This is, for the ranking. And what you can see here, they have different descriptions for the different, I would say grades. Yeah, they look like grades. So they use this method. The code book has 70 pages or 60, I'm not sure. But well, you can download it, so it's transparent. You can see what the people have been done. And then we have the second expert, and they told me the second expert in many cases comes from the country under review. So it's first usually a German expert, but not necessarily. I mean, we are talking about international research. And then you have someone from the country. And in Poland, they told me it's one of the very famous economists, but couldn't find out who it is. Because some of these experts want to stay anonymous. So they don't want to get their name published. If I see the German experts, I mean, they're all really high reputation. So, of course, they both gave these scores, these numbers, for these questions, and then they have a review. And then there is a regional coordinator who tries to kind of a broker between first expert and second one. Because sometimes, they say, oh no, this is strategic planning in this country is extremely bad because of this. And the second expert would say, no, this is not true, because in other sectors we are much better. And then the regional coordinator tries to get out, find a version. So it's a sort of emailing, phoning, Skyping, and whatever. And then they call it calibration. Calibration means we check plausibility. That means, if you have a question, for instance, you say, okay, Bulgaria. Bulgaria is implementing reforms much better than Switzerland. You would say, oh, what can this be? So this is not plausible, so you have to discuss it. And sometimes you have to adopt or to adapt figures. And you have another discussion. So it's another round, and then finally there's a kind of board, they call it a board. These are the high-ranking experts, and they just check it, and they ask, how can it be that, for example, Germany is ranking number 1 in this ranking, and so on and so forth. How can it be? Because it's against, the first idea. So I come to the end very soon. Oh, would you like to explain this? Yeah.
All right, that's another. I think.
I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Technique from my friend, I think. It's the same. All right. I'll go on without the microphone. And whoa. Since this indicators combine qualitative data and quantitative data, it's also a qualitative approach in the codebook, and that's another example. You see here again this ranking, we see the strategic planning, and another example is the economic policy. And there you see that the experts who are part of the establishment of some country reports, the data generating process, have to also refer to more quantitative data. So there's always a combination of those two approaches straight from the beginning already in the codebook. So that's another example that is not only based on this scala here, but it combines both more qualitatively approach and quantitative data.
So sometimes the ranking is 50% made out of a quantitative observation and a qualitative one. So they actually mix it.
Yes.
So, well, from the methodology you can criticize it.
All right, now let's take a closer look on the sample of the, especially of the recent edition of the SGI. So you see there's 41 countries, and compared to the former editions, 2014 edition has succeeded in not only analyzing the 34 countries of the OECD, but also for the first time all 28 members of the European Union. So it's quite an interesting sample, I think. Here we have the list, and of course there's, it brings up a lot of opportunities to compare the different country reports and to group all this country group up and then compare also the groups as you see here. So we got 34 OECD countries, and then of course the members of the European Union can be grouped again to the Eurozone or without the Eurozone. I think that's quite interesting to work with. And we have different approaches to compare different groups of countries and also compare the single countries within one group. So it's really brought up some great opportunities to study this SGI in a comparative perspective.
They have a different index or indicators for the developing world. So interestingly enough, some of, like from Romania, they are also under review in the report about developing countries, because we call it transition country. So that's really the interesting thing, that you have data and you can download for every country a report for free. So you have 40 pages of this country. You can start with it.
Yeah, and we will have a further look on this, how the data is presented. But now you maybe question yourself, now what is it the SGI deals with? Now in general, we got three pillars, as you can say, three pillars of the SGI. You see three different dimensions, some different general dimensions. First of all, we got the policy performance, which of course deals with the policies of 16 policy areas. So the outcomes of each country concern this 16 policy areas, which areas we will focus on later. And of course, the focus lies on economic development, environmental protection, and social equity. So these are the mainly topics which are structured by some other indicators that build all these areas that policy performance deals with. And of course, it focuses on the profile of strengths and weaknesses. And based on all these findings, you can say now, where does this country stand? Concerning, is there more reforms needed, or in which sector the country performs pretty well? So based on all of this, on the policy outcomes, this is the first dimension of the first so-called SGI pillar.
Yeah, you can see they have a comprehensive approach. So they take the data on democracy and data on policy and governance. So they include, so actually they synthesize the welfare definition and the EU definitions and so on. We should probably, even here we could mention, the democracy measurement is only based on qualitative assessment, not quantitative data. Because it doesn't make so much sense to assess democracy only in quantitative. We can do this, but it's only based on qualitative data, but the other ones are based on those.
Yeah. Yeah, as you mentioned, the second pillar is democracy, which deals with the democratic framework. So how is the democratic framework concerned with a sustainable governance performance? So that's basically the second pillar, and the last and third pillar is concerned with the governance and the structures of governance concerning the reform capacity of all these countries, which are also divided in another bunch of other indicators. We'll have a look in a second on how these different pillars are, so to say, defined in some more different indicators that in whole build then the outcome of these pillars. All right, and there's the first one. Now you see that the first pillar again is different in, let's say, another three dimensions, as I mentioned: economic policies, social policies, environmental policies. And then, of course, these three dimensions again includes different indicators that shape the outcome of all these three dimensions. So for economic policies, it's, of course, economy, labor market, taxes, budget, and so on. So stuff we talked about the other days, quite intensive. Then also social policies, which is focusing on education, social inclusion, health, families, pensions. And for pensions, we can exemplify how the indicators are formed that are analyzed to analyze, that are, which are.
I mean, they're taking into account, they use four indicators. In total, we have 67. So they use called pensions, 4 indicators. You find text to each of these 4 indicators, a couple of sentences. So that's the reason why it's 50 pages. Because they describe the finding in a certain period under review, usually 2 years. It's usually 2 years.
And it is these indicators you find in the code book.
And they're all defined.
So environmental policies, of course, are divided in environmental policies and environmental protection regimes. So now we got the first finding. Hopefully you can recognize it or back, because the tables are very huge and detailed, so we had to cut them down a little bit. But now you see this is how it is presented in the not country report but general report, which ranks the different countries concerning their policy performance, where you can see the 3 dimensions: economic policy, social policies, environmental policy, and then the overall policy performance. And then you get the ranking based on this outcome.
And you have a trend indicator that shows it goes up or it goes down. But probably later on we can discuss critically these tables. And you can see some changes, some big changes, sometimes very not so big changes, slight changes and so on. It shows this kind of, so it's all the 41 countries are listed here. So.
All right. And then if you go on the homepage, which we mentioned already, cginetwork.org, you can look up the different.
This is German.
This is German, yes. You can look up the different indicators we mentioned. So this is all again is concerning the pension system. And remember, we got 4 indicators that are analyzed to focus on the pension policies in Germany, and then you see the outcome of these different indicators. And on the scale from 1 to 10, we got 7, and here old age dependency ratio is pretty poor, obviously pretty poor performance. So in this graphic, which is the main part of the presentation of the findings on the homepage, it is the more the graphic turns into the middle of this circles, the less performed the countries pretty good. So the more it goes on the outside, the better is the outcome. So that's the principle in this visualization.
And they calculate medians. So they just add it and divide it up to 4. So you get a median of, I don't know, 6 point something or 5 point something in this case. So this is advantages and disadvantages, of course. All right.
Yeah, that's another example. There you see how the more qualitatively data and the more quantitative data works together. Now you see here is the more quantitative data that are 3, let's say, indicators, and we got the overall performance. Now this is how these 4 indicators are built up. You look here, employment rate of older workers. We can find it here. Then old age dependency ratio is the one that's over there. And yeah, just to show you, for example, how the codebook and the visualization of the findings are bind together.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, like all other indices and indicators and collections, they are normative. I mean, they're clearly normative. Because if you say, foreign pension policy achieves the objectives fully, you see the objectives. Or you could say, of course, I don't care what pension is. No idea about that. They should see what they can do, how to survive. Okay, this would be a different normative statement, but the normative statement is quite clear. This is more interesting in democracy-related indicators. Because this is a normative setting. You say, this, you want to have this, and this is our idea. And this is your benchmark for measurement. So you could, if you don't agree, if you say pension is not interesting for us, well, you have very different judgment and very different scores. So this depends on the normative framework. Then you can see texts, and we have only taken two parts of this text. It's a little bit longer, I would say it's double. And there you can see, probably you should just be quiet for a minute and you can read it. Statements like this give you just first impression about how the situation is and where the problem is. For example, there's one interesting observation: the increasing political power of engineers. Of course, in Germany, in an aging society, and they are the ones who go to the polls, not the other people, unfortunately. So they go to the polls, and of course they vote for parties who are very much in favor of the older people. And you see all these problems, and this is not very, I would say it's ambivalent. The judgment is really ambivalent, and so you got the score of 7. Not 10, not 1. But it's, of course, you have to really to discuss these findings, and they discuss it among experts, and then they give it to the public for further discussion. See how it is?
So overall, this is how it's presented in the country reports. You've got the different indicators, you've got the score, and then in the text it's laid out why this score, or why this score is 7.0 or another score here. So, all right, the second dimension, or the second pillar, quality of democracy, and of course, it is also, or again, divided in some other dimensions: electoral processes, access to information, civil rights, and political liberties, and rule of law. And then we got 4 criteria, and again, some indicators that are analyzed to build up the criteria. So as you can see, civil rights and political liberties, for example, of course the focus on civil rights, political liberties, and non-discrimination, whereas access to information is focusing on media freedom, media pluralism, and access to government information in general.
Some of you might have worked with the Freedom House Index. Freedom House only takes observes electoral processes and civil rights and political liberties with different indicators, but this is rather restricted, I would say. It explains the success, of course, but this one is much more comprehensive, I would say. But it's more complicated too.
So, and based on this dimension indicators, another finding of the 2014 edition. So again, we got this large table here, and got the ranking with the trend compared to the former edition from 2011. And what is quite interesting is that Hungary is, pretty much on.
Anyone from Hungary?
And therefore we focus again on a more detailed visualization of the indicators that led to this overall performance. So if you can see, rule of law, civil rights, and political liberties, and all the other indicators. And obviously the rule of law is the major problem here. And of course, then you can again consult the country report and find the argumentation for how this score is built up.
And this report was written by a German expert and reviewed by Hungarians, because you have to come from the countries to have a fair judgment, I would say. And I think this is very comprehensive, summarizing a very complicated development in, I would say, just 15 sentences, and this one is quite clear. Of course it's debatable. You can say, I don't believe this, but then you have to find arguments, and then that's the idea, to stimulate really discussion.
And then the last dimension, the third pillar, which is quite interesting pillar, is concerning governments, and governance is divided in two dimensions actually: executive capacity and executive accountability. And then we again have these two criteria, and we got another example of how the indicators are built up to analyze these two criteria. So for example, executive capacity is strategic capacity, interministerial coordination, evidence-based instruments, and so on. And on the other side, executive accountability, so for example, parties and interest associations, how is the relationship between government, government performance, and the other actors in the intermediary system, for example. So these two dimensions and these indicators, and of course the indicators as well, have some analytical, small analytical dimension, which are analyzed to sum up the overall indicator. So here we have GeoGatekeeping, for example, which means is the government office, or how does the government office perform in forming the agenda, the policy agenda in the cabinet committee, for example, or informal coordination. So how do the ministries coordinate their policies besides the established formal coordination processes, and so on. So we see different indicators for the criteria of interministerial coordination, and of course we have also here the overall finding when it comes to
government in the same countries, always the Scandinavian also countries. They are really hacked. But another indicator is very much the same.
All right, and now we take a look on different countries. We mentioned at the beginning concerning, I think it's quite interesting, executive capacity and then especially effective implementation. And the question is, does the government implement policies effectively? And then we can have a look on different countries, and you see that Poland overall performs quite well. Yeah. So you got different indicators again that form the dimension of effective implementation.
Let me explain where do you get these criteria from? Well, these criteria reflect the international discussion, and of course this goes much beyond textbooks we use at university. So it's a very highly specific discussion among experts, and they have taken this, I have deducted them from the international discussion. It's debated. Is this indicator really relevant, or we have another one, but in some respects it's close to OECD and World Bank, in other respects they are innovative and they have created their own indicators. But you, of course, we need for these indicators a description. And you told me there's a little booklet on these descriptions and definitions also available. But I don't think we put in it.
Yeah, then unfortunately we can show it. But if you go on the...
Oh, there is internet. Oh, great. We can show it later.
Okay,
We show it. Just go through.
So another example of the effective implementation and the question how effectively the government implements policies. Now take a look on Belgium and how you see that the different visualization of the overall performance here and
oh, where's the bullet? Sorry, where's the bullet? A little.
And then finally Romania, and yeah, as you can see, there are some areas of let's say,
We could go to the text, but it would take too long to compare the text and so on, because we have to be confident for this judgment. I mean, we cannot just judge a country, because you need arguments, empirical findings. So, but you cannot do this, it would take much too long. You can see the very different observations.
it's just an example for how you can use this data or how it's possible arrangement of this data, and you can work with, of course, you have to consult the country report in general to get an insight how it is documented that, for example, constitutional description is just 3.0. So you will find it as text, and then you can reflect it and maybe discuss it and go further on with the further analysis. Croatia for another example. But if we might continue here, and then so to say last look on Germany. So we heard the other days Germany is a really good performer when it comes to crisis and crisis management and the last year's development. Germany quite a good performer, but reading the country report and reading the findings of the SGI concerning Germany, you see that there's of course some deficits that remain. For example, education policies, there's obviously a problem concerning especially pre-primary expenditure or education policies overall. There's a problem. As you can see here, this is another huge table which is hopefully can be recognized in the back. But you see Germany just on the 20th place.
The country are listed according to their performance.
Yeah.
So you can see it's very different. You know. There's no country which is a good performer in all indicators. But if you show the text, it will become quite clear why Germany is not so strong in education. Only the last sentence. German education structures is segregated, stratified, federalized, segmented, and socially highly selected. Educational opportunities are particularly constrained for immigrants and children from low-income families. I mean, this is a kind of a slap in the face of the German education system, because it's not working with it. So we have a lot of deficits, and this is, I would say, quite interesting thing. These comparative indicators, they just show strengths and weaknesses. And these experts are independent, of course. They are not paid by governments.
Okay. And you can also see here that there are some other sources which are referred to in writing this country report. All right, and then a last comparison. So that's just another example how you may work with the data on the homepage. Of course, that's a first step into an in-depth analysis, but you can compare countries in this kind of visualization, and you see that the gray one is Poland and the blue one is Germany. And of concerning the strategic planning, obviously German is a less performant than Poland.
Yeah, German politicians don't like to take advice. It's very simple. They listen, but they don't take real advice. It's my personal experience too. From down, trying to convince them to change their policy.
Of course, you may hit the country reports to get the argument for this performance. So another example for maybe
It is very much about where are decisions made, who's making decisions, and who contributes to decisions. And is it meeting the governance standards of a modern way of governance to include actors from different stakeholders from different spheres? That's the idea. In the German case. Well, you have, of course, a federalized system. The federal system is much different in this way. It's much more complicated in this way. But the result is not very interesting. I actually was really surprised about these rather negative findings about some aspects of the German system. This is Poland.
in comparison.
Yeah.
The argument for Poland. And now, yeah.
Okay, this is you. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm waiting for your questions. So first of all, any questions about the indicators in general? Okay, sure, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I love a good set of indicators. I have two questions. One, if you could please just return the slide on German education policy. That's the one where popped up to me. Okay, so here we see that some of the indicators are scored with, well, decimals other than 0. So they must be probably based on more nuanced indicators or made up of some already existing quantitative data, rather than just impressionist scores like 6.0, 7.0.
Yeah, but for example, if you have quantitative, can explain that if you have quantitative data, quantitative data set 5, if the qualitative data, it's 6, I would say, then they just take the median as 5.5.
Oh.
That explains it. And sometimes they take into account the measurement of the second expert as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not an insider, but I think that could be the reason for this.
Okay, so impressions are combined with some objective data in some cases. Okay, and another procedural question: what happens in the event that the evaluations of the two experts differ very widely, which is the problem we've had in some national reports in Croatia with experts reporting who have a personal vendetta against the system or some of its aspects and refuse to accept any other evaluation other than their own?
Actually, I don't know how they deal with these problems. I know it from the other expert, because from the other index, because I'm a regional coordinator for Africa, this one. What I'm obviously doing, I try to, first of all, to clarify what are the differences between the two assessments, and then I often select a third person, another expert, and try to find out, and sometimes I have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my role as a regional coordinator. I'm not sure how they are doing. I'm not sure. They don't tell me. But of course, you have to find a compromise. But sometimes it's possible, for example, if you say, okay, some of the indicators are overlapping. And you say, okay, but your argument is directed to this one. But in most cases, my experience is in most cases with Africa, 99%, there's not so much disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there is sometimes disagreement. So if you say, for example, this religious movement is peaceful or not, then you have really to think about it. It much depends on the time frame, but there's conflict, yes. There's a conflict, controversial discussion between the experts.
Yeah.
Usually we don't give names. I don't give names, because we should exclude all these personal vendettas and so on. But no names. Sometimes they think that they can find out, but if you have names, then they would say, oh, I can't accept this guy, he comes from this region or so. And they have all these things. And I hate this guy because he did this and that.
Yeah, but
this tiny problem.
Expert review is probably the only avenue to take when you need specific country data. So yeah, it's
I mean, in my experience, it was difficult to find experts. I mean, it's not difficult to find an expert about Italy. You find many, probably German, but try to find someone from Lithuania who's capable and who has insight into these data. And very often they work for American agencies or they work for World Bank. There's a very limited number of really qualified experts. If they know this. So you have to pay them, otherwise they won't do anything. So my experience is I try to find someone who can give information about Guinea in Africa. It was a disaster. I found someone in France, okay, that was the only. Yeah, but this is not the problem with most people so much. Yeah, any more questions? Do you really understand this? How it is made, how it's arranged? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just have the issue with the trends and the comparing countries when you have. I mean, you weigh the same in the same amount as if I understood it correctly, the quantitative data and the qualitative data. And then when you're comparing countries and the trends on the second decimal point, I mean, it's not. I feel that it's best just to stay on the qualitative side. I don't know why this quantitative need to have the comparison. Germany 6.1, Poland 6.3. I mean, is it really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For me, that is the main issue. I mean, comparing countries based on the qualitative data seems okay. I mean, if you have it.
Could you go back to ranking quickly? The beginning of the ranking.
Yeah, the ranking system.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one.
I mean, for example, you have two reviewers. One would give, I don't know, Germany 7, one would give 8, and a third or fourth one would give maybe 9 or 10. I mean, these differences are really so small.
Have a look. Italy 595, Czech Republic 592. Yes. From my point of view, I would say it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Because of scaling, there's a problem of scaling.
Yeah.
But why are they doing rankings? And we have to do ranking with the other index as well. And then there's a very simple answer. It's a very simple answer. From a scientific point of view, you would say, oh, this doesn't make sense. But then they say, this is made for decision makers, and they want to have clear messages. But this is a problem. Because, but of course, I mean, if you see, for example, Cyprus here, with 3.91, and you have Sweden.
I mean, of course.
But they are big, I mean, that makes sense. But if you have these very narrow margins, I don't think it makes sense. In my personal view, I don't always criticize because I'm always kind of believe it. But then, I would say the board people, the big bosses come and say, no. For decision makers and entrepreneurs, they want that clear message. We are ranking number 27. That's a different logic. There's the media, all the media does it. All the media, they say, oh, they performed quite well. They are ranking 22 and they're even heading up our neighboring country, our neighbor. So they like the media likes this. But from a scientific point of view, I would say, I'm not in favor of these rankings, not with these margins. Not with these margins. We could do it differently. We could have wider margins. But they didn't. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, just could you go to the democracy thing?
Okay.
No, that one with the indicators. Is there any indicator from the citizens' point of view, like their support for democracy or something? I didn't quite get it. The indicators based on citizens' data, you know, like big polls, opinions based on, I don't know, support for democracy or something like that.
Trust in this.
Trust, yeah.
I don't know exactly. Mike, look at the code, then you
Okay.
find the...
Okay.
No, we are not working with this one.
Yeah, okay.
We are not part of this program. Yeah.
Okay, so as we are not decision makers, we are political scientists. If we want to go deeper in some fields problems, can we find some more descriptive data on your website? Or if we want to move beyond just numbers and indicators, numbers.
I think the only descriptive form of analysis are the country reports, which are written. It is not more than that. You will get all those indicators, all those numbers. You can arrange them if you want, but of course, there's a problem with all these rankings. And the only way to get a descriptive form of the analysis is, or are the country reports. But it doesn't get further. So it doesn't go further.
I mean, you have access to quantitative data. That's not a problem because they are open sources. But with this one, actually, you only have the country reports. And of course, you could call them. I mean, there are real people sitting, and you could call them and discuss it with them and probably with some experts. For example, if you're a PhD candidate and you want to use the data, I would say they will open up. So there's not much secrecy. Remember Freedom House. They don't publish anything. 2 pages per country, 2 or 3 pages. So this one, you report 50 pages. And the report of the Development Transformation Index, for each country, 40 pages, 50 pages. And so this really, I would say, this is a big advantage because it's transparent. At least they try to be transparent. Of course, you don't get this process, how they really make the calculations. Yes, it is.
I'm working on MIT Freedom House.
Oh, great. Oh, sorry.
It's 40 pages.
Okay, what 40 countries per couple? Okay. So we get a discussion.
Detailed indicators are not so detailed, so there are groups of indicators, but we issue 40 pages per couple.
This has changed. And we had a meeting with Freedom House a couple of years ago, and they told us we have different policy, but then they changed their policy. Because I still remember Freedom House, and there's a couple of pages per country.
They issue first 2 pages or 3 pages appetizer. And then
So this is another alternative for democracy rankings. Take Freedom House. Yeah, sure.
I have a question about the first pillar, the policy performance. Maybe the answer is quite obvious, but is it kind of similar to regulatory impact analysis, or
Sorry.
is it similar to RIA, the regulatory impact analysis, or there are some differences?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to look it up. I'll ask the people working on it. Usually they don't rely on other indices. Usually they don't use it. So they have their own database, create their own database. But the problem is, they have a very specific language for it, very specific terms. So you need quite a while to get used to this terminology. Any other question? Oh, okay, we have collected models. Because we are really, we're not working for this and we can criticize it. So the last one, yeah. No. And the first one we mentioned, it doesn't really make sense to have a ranking with such margins. From my point of view, not really. But I told you there are different logics behind it. We have said in German, where the Mittelwert problematic. It means that the findings, scores, are compensated. And this is another problem. Because then you have a 6, but what does it mean? We didn't translate. We have a 6, and you have a 2 in the other field. That means we add 2, we have 4 in total. But this is a little misleading because the discrepancy between the indicators is quite big. I don't know how to avoid this thing, but all other indices are doing this as well. You have overlapping indicators. If you really compare definitions, you would say, oh, but this aspect is also included in this one. So there's a danger of autology. You have to look out. There's some, we always discuss historical background. If you compare Romania with, let's say, Britain, you would say, yeah, you can do this. And this is, there's a probably a good reason, but on the other hand, you have to take into account the historical trajectory was very different. So the starting point, you could say, oh, this is not fair. Well, then you need a different indicator for relations and transitors. But this is the problem, because the starting point is very different. After the Ceausescu dictatorship and UNESCO and all these people, we start from a very different point. If you compare very mature democracies like Britain or the United States, France and so on, with countries who are very young democracies. And probably the results are sometimes a little bit, well, the interpretation of the results should just take into account. This is not done here. This is a normative approach, yeah, true. I think we already mentioned this. And the wording is if you look up the wording, sometimes you have all criteria is met 10 points. And you have 7 points, nearly all criteria is fully met. 8 points, so what does it mean? Where are the thresholds? All these little things, that makes it difficult, and it gets a little bit imprecise. But of course, sometimes it's very precise, and sometimes it's not so precise. So the wording has to be changed permanently. I think it's pretty much the same. But you have to think how to interpret the wording. We have a lot of experience. Well, you have some sources given here for judgments, but actually do not know how they get their observations. Are they conducting interviews? Do they know people in the presidency? Because this is very sensitive data. What does strategic planning? I mean, if you go to the government and say, oh, please tell me something about your strategic planning. Yes, they will say. And they give you the booklet, Strategy 2020. That's it. But they won't tell you, oh, we have a little discussion with trade unions in this respect. They resist everything. They won't do this. So it's a little bit difficult. Okay, when you're an expert, you know the people, it's probably not so difficult, but I have sometimes doubts whether the information is really based on empirical observation. But this is personal opinion. Then the technocratic language. They take up, it's a very technocratic approach, actually, to measure things. 50 years ago, my professors, for example, would have said, 30 years ago, it's impossible. You cannot measure politics. Now we are in a different world, but nevertheless, be cautious, because there could be other factors or variables and so on. That's the clear one. But there are some positives. First of all, you get a lot of data. So if you as a student should give a presentation on Croatia, you have no idea about civil service reform in Croatia. Just look it up. And then you find the kind of starting points. It's a starting point for further research. It is not that Wikipedia is a problem because sources and everything. But this one is starts. It's a good starting point for in-depth study. So you cannot take it and say, that's it. That's civil service reform in Croatia. 5 sentences. Yeah. But from these sentences, from the comments, you could start to go much deeper. You can say, okay, they mentioned that there's a problem, they mentioned they have success in this area, so go on. So you don't start from the scratch, you start from some information, and after you wrote your study, probably you think, oh no, this is nonsense. They are misleading. But you could start, you have probably a hypothesis or some findings, you could really debate it. And yeah, the good thing is independent expertise. So no government people, scientists who are hired and are paid for this, but they don't get any direction. I think Freedom House is doing the same, although Freedom House is financed partly by government. It's another one. And this one is just a company, actually, a foundation, although they have interest, named to promote the German model of social market economy, which Americans, for example, would say, no. We have a social market, we have a market economy, but not necessarily a social market economy. It's a very specific German idea that these entrepreneurs are socially responsible and all this stuff. You don't have to share this. It's a normative approach. Yeah. Any further remarks? Well, if you have country studies, you could start with this one. Download them. Yeah, now you can distribute it. Yeah, but you can download it. Oh yeah, and they often do these other studies. They have in-depth studies of Asia or intergenerational justice and all this stuff. So they sometimes take out of the data some special aspects, and then it's good to download them because they compare. I mean, for me personally, I'm often using this one, but I'm a little critical too. But you can take it as a starting point. That's the idea. And the good thing is it's for free of charge, like Freedom House. Download everything. Yeah, you have a big USB stick and then you download everything. A couple of gigabytes would be easy. Okay. Thank you so much.